Come on in, bestie. Welcome to StoryPod, where we do the doing of story development together. Brought to you by Creative BFF. Listen, hello. Welcome back to the podcast, the StoryPod podcast, as it were. My name is Ashley. Your bestie. I haven't called you that for a minute, but you are my bestie. And here's why. I actually have a cold today, all right? Playing my tiny violin. It's okay. And I had to get up out of my sick bed to do some stuff. And to reward myself, to give myself a pat on the back, I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk to my friends about story stuff. So you are a reward for me. Coming to see you, coming to speak to you is like a reward for getting up out of the bed, even though I want to stay in the bed. And let's talk about some story stuff. Here's what we do on this podcast. Sometimes I like to reiterate for myself and for you. This podcast is intended to be a place where we can flex our storytelling muscles together. So that when we are sitting in front of our stories, we have, strength, we have ideas, we have things that we can turn to help us so we don't have to fear the blank page. That's one of the things, right? And it's fun. Storytelling is fun. Number two. And also the other purpose for this podcast is for me to be able to hopefully help you as a story coach, when you're stuck. So if you would like me to help you, if you would like me to answer a story question you may have on this podcast, please feel free to reach out. You can reach me at ash@creativebff.com via email, or you can go to my website, creativebff.com, and you can drop a cute little message in the contact section. But until we find each other, until you are at a point in your story where you need help, and you want me to answer it on the podcast, we go to Reddit. And that is what we're doing today. So I was looking over to the side at the question that we're answering today. And side note, because I have a cold, which you can probably hear, I'm going to try to do some quicker, maybe talk a little bit less, so that I can hopefully do some episodes in between blowing my nose and sneezing and taking a sip of tea, which I have all here off the screen. Cute little cup of tea over here. Okay, I've got some lozenges. Okay, anyway, let's ask, answer, say, state the question. I couldn't think of the word I was trying to find. So the question is, am I feeding into the absent father stereotype with my OC, my original character? This is on the r/character development subreddit from Selection Kind 2855. So they write, I have a black RDR2 OC, and I'm assuming that's Red Dead Redemption 2 original character. It took me a minute to be like, what could this be? I might be wrong. Let me know in the comments what RDR2 could be. And he is the son of a single mother. At first, his dad was just out of the picture. Then I was like, well, I would like to add a touch of angst. Let's kill him. There was more to it than that, but yeah, I love a good tragic backstory. So I have him die when my OC was little. He remembers small little things about him, but then all of a sudden it hit me. The absent father trope is a real popular stereotype towards the Black community. Am I feeding into that? I'm one of those people who will completely kill off an OC's parents, original character's parents, or kill off one, rarely have an OC who has both alive. So trust me, this was not some internalized racism move. I just enjoy having characters with a bit of a kick. I would hate to feed into a stereotype. It's kind of been a thing since the creation of his backstory, growing up with a strong single mother, who is also her own character whom I adore. His father has passed, he's dead. Is that feeding into the stereotype? He is an original character for a Red Dead Redemption role play, RDR-RP. I'm assuming Red Dead Redemption roleplay, if that helps. I love him dearly. A penny for your thoughts, please. So this is a very interesting question because I actually kind of lightly had this sort of same brief discussion with a partner that I'm working on a story with, one of my friends. And he has a lot of characters, but one of the characters, or rather more than one, it's like a group of brothers, 3 brothers. And he originally, in his mind, envisioned them, and they're Black. Obviously, that's what we're talking about. He originally envisioned them being raised by a single mother. But when I wrote, quote unquote wrote, because this is the project that I've mentioned a couple times that we are using AI to assist with. I'll do another podcast about that later on. But I made the split second decision to actually have the father in the picture because one of the brothers goes missing. And so I had the father just in the scene, basically on the phone with the police and doing all that kind of stuff. So when he saw that I had put that in there, he did come and he was like, well, I originally had them being raised by a single mother, and I wanted it to show that you can still turn out really good. And my light pushback was I was going to go with whatever he wanted, because in my mind, this is his story. This is really his story. He created the characters and all this kind of stuff. So I wasn't going to force my will on the story, right? But my light and gentle pushback was definitely we can absolutely do that. I only put the father in there because it is something that we see a lot of, and I wanted to show a present Black father, in media, in media that's directed towards, or at least features our culture, right? And he himself is a present Black father in the home with his wife and daughter. So we didn't go back and forth on it. He was like, okay, yeah, let's keep that in there. We have other characters that, have parents that are absent or fathers that are absent, whatever the case may be. So I definitely am cognizant of this stereotype, quote unquote, this plot point, this character issue. And this is also not to say that, excuse me. This is also not to say that Black characters are the only ones who ever have an absent father. And, this is something that all cultures, nationalities, ethnicities experience, but it's definitely very, very visible and somewhat widespread, I guess. Widespread. I could be completely incorrect because I do not have percentages and figures and data. That's the word I was looking for. I don't have data in front of me, but maybe this is a function of it being so widespread, at least in depictions on social media and in entertainment media and things like that, stories and stuff. So it feels like it's a high percentage. And I think that there is data that seems to corroborate that. So I am cognizant of that. I am sensitive of that. And I do want to see more stories where the father is present, and maybe even that both parents are present in the home, because I feel like it's not seen as much. However, with that being said, having that be represented so that it can be something that children can aspire to, like, oh yeah, I want to, when I'm creating my family, I want to have both parents in the home, right? Even if I didn't have that. And that also wasn't my experience. My father was not in the home as well. So I am also a product of that quote unquote stereotype, which is a real thing in this community and in many communities as well. So while I understand on the one hand not wanting to give more life to the stereotype, because I do think that entertainment media, stories, things like that have a very real effect on what people, the choices that people then make in their own lives. I really think that story can play a big role, along with music and other things, other forms of entertainment, can really shape and form the, I don't want to say morality, but the principles that people live their lives by, right? I won't go any more into that subject because that's a whole subject on its own. So I understand that on the one hand, but then also on the other hand, it is a reality that the African American community is dealing with. So it's not like you are pushing a negative stereotype that is not a reality. So I think that there's not necessarily a clean and clear answer. I feel like what we would then fall back on is what's best for your story and for your character. What is going to make the most interesting story? What's going to aid you as the writer in making a compelling story, making an interesting character, giving them really interesting conflicts and moral dilemmas and weaknesses and a very interesting backstory. The sentence left my brain. The way I was going to finish that sentence definitely left my brain right there. But basically, I think that because there's not necessarily a clean and clear answer of like, yes, go ahead and do that. It's not pushing a stereotype, or no, don't do that because it does push a stereotype. I really think that in this case, because it is real, it is a real situation that plenty of people deal with, but there is also the other side of wanting to see positive family relationships in the African American community. We love that. I love to see that. I want to see more of it. I want that to be normal. I want it to feel normal so that people will believe that it's normal, so that they will work towards that for their own life and for their own family. You know what I'm saying? So entertainment and books and all of that, even though this is just like for a role play type of thing, I don't know if this the asker intends to flesh it out into a story or a full fan fiction, or maybe take it once it's developed to a certain point and make it its own story. But overall, in general, it would be great to have representation and to begin normalizing that again in the African American community, right? So that people are working towards that. So that is a goal to strive towards, so that they will do the internal work in order to be healthy enough, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, in order to sustain, in order to, number one, identify a partner who also will put in the work to maintain a family, a healthy family unit, and to also have the fortitude to do what they need to do in order to support having a full family unit. I want to see that, right? But then it's also, the reality is that a lot of people don't have that. So you could really go either way. And so my answer would be, choose the direction that best serves your story, that best serves the way you want to develop this character. And you can bring in, through this, if you do, for example, decide to have the father be absent for whatever reason, whether he died early on or whether he left of his own volition or whatever the case may be, if that's where you decide to take the character, then you can sort of give your opinion on it a little bit by the way you take the character, the direction you take the character. What effect does that have on the character and the choices that they make in life, So that would be my answer. I'm not going to go too deep because I do feel my nose a tickling, girl, and I do want to go ahead and blow my nose, maybe have a little sneeze, maybe sip a little tea. So I believe that I answered the question, but what do you think? Do you think that having more stories where we see the absent father trope, just, as a key character element. How do you feel about that? Do you think that we should have more of that because it reflects reality? Do you think that we should start shifting away from that to where we are seeing it be normal for, to see a two-parent household in, an African-American two-parent household? And I open the floor to this question for not only African-American Black people, okay, or Black people elsewhere in the world, but also other nationalities, other ethnicities. Like, let's have a conversation, because this is not only an issue. I mean, fatherlessness does not only affect the Black community, but this person is specifically, it is kind of like a stereotype and a trope that we see in social media and elsewhere within the Black community. So anyway, that was like a little quick nibble of a podcast episode. Girl, listen, you're going to see me looking like this for some more episodes because we're recording today, because we're in that mode. You know what I'm saying? But listen, thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure to see you and to be with you. And again, if you have any questions that you would be happy for me to answer on this podcast, please feel free to hit me up. Links are below to where you can do that. And also, if you would like more one-on-one help, more extensive help, we can also do that. You can set up like a free little, what is it called? A free little first little meeting thing, little consultation vibe, you know what I'm saying? To see if we would work together. But until then, thank you so much for joining me. Love you, girl. See you next time, okay?